What's going on, everybody? It is I, Jacob Moore, the sports analyst. Everyone needs a little sports analyst in their life. And in 10 seconds, you will find out who's on the panel. And in 3, 2, 1. Oh my gosh. It's Dan. More for your money.
Woo! Hello, everybody.
And everyone's favorite petting zoo viewer, Adam the Goat.
That's funny. That's a good one. I like that one. That one's funny. It's like
So
the same. It's the normal same crew that's always here, to be fair.
Well, there's no Rick. Lane sent us a video that we'll go to later on in the show. With his
Rick is usually here, so
Ricky will say.
I think
pretty
Rick
devastating that he's not here.
I'm actually crying internally.
Yeah, I'm definitely crying on the inside. Definitely.
We should just bring on Rick Wass instead. He's the biggest boss we've seen thus far.
Honestly, I have no idea when they started or how it started, but it did, and now it's just what Jacob does.
I think petting zoos.
Comment from Daniel: any change is good. Shake things up. And this episode today is about the Toronto Maple Leafs hiring Jim Hiller as their new coach. Now, before you get started, there is a poll question I want to let everyone know about it in case they haven't voted yet. Maple Leafs hired Jim Hiller, right coach for Toronto? Yes. No. They suck either way. Or who cares?
I voted.
I know one thing. These nice trade rumors need. Yeah, Nick, I agree with you.
I'm getting very annoying to this point.
I do not want to see Matty Nyes. You know, I picked up the jersey. I don't want to see him getting traded. I think he's a unicorn type player that you do not get rid of.
I agree. I really like him. He had a clear year last year, right? And a team with a lot of players had the worst year of a career. Matty Nyes had his best year of his career. When I first saw the news this morning, I just quickly checked my phone. I thought, what? They hired a guy named who? I realized, I just went bad incorrectly.
Oh, damn.
So luckily they didn't hire that guy.
What's funny, he was our assistant coach for years. I know people don't really know the names of the assistant coaches, but he worked for the Bloody Leafs.
Well, that's what I thought.
For like a long time. He worked for the Leafs from like the start of the Babcock era to like 2018, 2019. Like, this isn't a guy who was like here for a year or two. He was a part of the coaching staff for a while, and then he was LA's coach not even like 3 years ago.
Well, that's what I don't understand of this whole dilemma. Okay, you had to interview 25 people, and there were good people available. Turns out today, Mr. Cassidy from Vegas was the one. Toronto was the one team that interviewed him. Very interesting. Patrick Wall, Hall of Famer, Stanley Cup winner. And this guy was on the team. We just talked about last night how important mental health is for men. And we know Mike Babcock is not great for mental health for anybody. And Hiller was the assistant of Mike Babcock. So I understand when your boss is doing things that puts you in a difficult situation. But we talked about it with the Carter Hart situation. The other players that weren't technically involved, but what? And we all say it was one for him to watch and not stop it. I think it was the same for this Hiller guy. If he saw Babcock picking on Marner, the way Marner came out and said, and he saw him picking on Matt Martin, the true veteran, it's one for him to stand there and watch. And now you bring him. He was a part of the problem that failed. Part of the problem, all of his teams that did not make it past the second round. He did not make it past the second round with LA. He did not make it past anywhere with the Islanders. He didn't do anything in his minor career. I looked up his resume today. I was curious what he's done. And pretty well everywhere he's done, except like Italy, is
Yeah, but
fail,
Dan,
fail.
To be fair to Hiller, I'll say this. We don't know if Hiller was actually had any knowings of what actually happened in the whatever meeting it was with Babcock. We don't know if Hiller was involved in the meeting. We don't know if Hiller knew what was going on. And I'm not but Jim Hiller all around, he seems like, Dan, he may have, what you say, failed. But again, with the Leafs, he was just an assistant coach. What is he supposed to do? He's not the head coach. He can't really do a hell of a lot in that situation. There's not much he can do about it. He's not the head coach. He's not the head honcho. So to put the failure of the Leafs on him is not okay.
I'm not putting it all on him.
Also with LA, to be fair, he did run into arguably the top 5 players in the NHL. He ran into a team with two of the top 5 players in the NHL. Hard to beat that Oilers team. That Oilers team, like McDavid, dominated those series.
Oh,
so
sure.
again, but he also has he won 93 games.
I don't care how many games
He was amazing. He was a good coach, Dan. And I'll say this again because I've seen it. People constantly bring up, well, you interviewed this guy, and you interviewed this guy, and you interviewed this guy, but you have to hire this guy because you can't hire this dimwit because he didn't win playoff series. Oh, he didn't get out of the second round. He must suck. Oh my gosh, this guy sucks. But it's like, at the end of the day, just because you interview somebody that somebody else deems better doesn't mean he's the right choice for this team. There's a difference between the best candidate and the best candidate for your team. And I think a lot of Leafs Nation and a lot of people in general do not get the distinction. Bruce Cassidy may have been the best candidate because he won a Stanley Cup. But Dan, do you know what's pretty funny? Everybody said the same thing about Craig Berube. What happened to Craig Berube? Didn't do anything.
Same with Mike Babcock.
So that automatically, just because Bruce Cassidy is the best candidate because he's won a Stanley Cup, doesn't mean anything. Clearly, management does not feel he is best for this team. They feel Jim Hiller is. And I feel like I don't feel like it's right to judge him before he's even coached a game. He has been very good despite maybe not getting through in the playoffs. Running into Connor McDavid, him and Draisaitl are very hard to beat. Nobody in the Western Conference could for 2 years. So to be fair, he was just one of 6 other coaches that also failed to beat Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in the Western Conference final. In the Western Conference.
And Dan,
the other teams couldn't beat them. So it's not fair. But Dan, I would like to see what he does before I judge him.
And also, when you bring up Mike Babcock, by the way, Mike Babcock was terrible. I do agree. However, you've worked for terrible bosses. I've worked for terrible bosses. Not now, but like in the past. That doesn't mean that I'm a bad employee because I had a bad boss. And you can say the same thing about Jim Hiller. Just because Mike Babcock was an ass doesn't mean he's an ass. And he does have a good resume. You look at the head coach for the LA Kings. He was 93-58 with a 600-point percentage. That's a point percentage that gets you into the playoffs. He's an offensive-minded coach. He had success with Matthews in the past when he was apparently Matthews absolutely loves this guy. Like,
so
let me finish. When I first heard about the decision, I was iffy, to be honest with you. But overall, when you start to do more research, this guy's been able to coach multiple good power plays. He does make the playoffs every year in LA. He made the playoffs. He's been on long playoff runs with the New York Islanders as an assistant with Barry Trotz, which Barry Trotz, back when he was here, said that always spoke very highly of Jim Hiller. And I think Barry Trotz is a genius. So I don't actually hate this move. It was kind of like the Joseph Woll trade when I'm like, where's the, WTF? What the hell's going on? And then after I start thinking about it, I'm like, no, you know what? The move does make some sense. It makes a hell of a lot more sense in Edmonton going for Mike Babcock. There could have been a much worse decision made by Toronto.
Jacob, I do want to point out something. Historically in the NHL, outside of a few outliers, of course, but those aren't the rules. Those are the exceptions, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, coaches have done better as in their second stop as an NHL head coach than they have in their first stop. Historically, now that cannot be the case this way, but I do want to point out, I was just reading this Sportsnet article earlier today where it's like this guy just gave his thoughts. He knew he had worked, I think he was working in the Marlies when Jim Hiller was around. So he worked close. He worked with Jim Hiller in some sorts, of course, but he honestly, after I read this, I'm like, he doesn't sound too bad. Like he doesn't sound, I think a lot of people expect him to be a defensive coach. Doesn't sound like he's that kind of that exact kind of coach, but his teams are good defensively. We could see the return of DJ Smith. Our penalty kill was very good with DJ Smith.
I like DJ Smith actually.
So could he potentially bring in a guy that he knows very well in DJ Smith? We don't know. DJ Smith's out of a job now because Pierre Laviolette is the new LA Kings boss. That was another name I apparently heard, but everybody seems to forget that he's now the new LA Kings head coach.
Yeah, I know it.
But again, it's just I think it's been a knee-jerk reaction when you think about it, because when you think about it with a guy like, let's say, Joe Pavelski coming into his first job in a pressure environment where the Leafs are still trying to win a Stanley Cup. That's a lot of pressure.
Are they at this point, though?
But Dan, it seems to be because they would have hired Joe Pavelski if they were in, or they would have hired another first-year head coach if they didn't want to win a cup. That wasn't still the direction they're trying to go. They would have already traded Austin Matthews. They would have already traded William Nylander. Matty Knies wouldn't still be here. All of these guys would have been gone. That would have been the plan. We would have known it was the plan because they would have that would have came out eventually that they had asked those guys to give lists so they can trade them. That would have already happened, I felt like, by now. Joe Pavelski would, or another first-year head coach would be that, because why hire a guy who's already worked in the NHL, has an experience as a head coach, and has brought mediocre teams, because LA was mediocre when he was there, to the playoffs. Why else would you make that hiring? Unless, because it's not a rebuild. That has become abundantly clear that this wasn't going to be a rebuild.
I think you bring up an interesting point, Adam, because I think Mr. Chikrin here might have split personalities, because yesterday you basically sold Joseph Woll and Samuel Benyar for younger players and a third-round pick, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but that's what it was. It wasn't a hockey trade. Those players are not as even par players. It was definitely a sell move. And then the next day, you make the point, Adam, that you hire a coach with experience to go for a playoff one. And because you're right, if you're going to rebuild, Joe Pavelski would have been a great first-year head coach. So yesterday you were rebuilding, today you're going for a cup one. Which one are we doing?
So Dan, I don't think you understand that move yesterday. You still don't seem to get the understanding of the move. How much money? Joseph Woll was making $5 million. What is the Leafs' exact issue from the last decade? They were stuck against the cap the entire time. The Leafs have not had enough cap room to make good moves.
Woll was 3.6.
But no, he's making $5 million next year. He makes more money than you remember. And it was also a move because Woll obviously needed a change of scenery. That much was obvious with the stuff that happened last offseason.
For sure,
He's injured, which sucks. I love Joseph Woll. I don't think that's a move to rebuild when you think about all the other goaltenders we have. We have two other young guys.
Great guys
who are younger than Joseph Woll. They're both they're both 25 and under. Like, those guys were obviously at some point going to take over from Joseph Wall. They're obviously going to pass Joseph Wall. There's the argument that Hildeby's already better than Joseph Wall. But when you're put into that situation, it makes having Joseph Wall less of a priority, I think, at this point. Like, and it makes the move make sense when you think about it in that way, and people continuously don't think about it in that way. It's obvious. Like, Aronson's also an RFA. There's no guarantee the Leafs actually sign him. They could also trade his rights still until July 1st or even after that. He could get offer sheeted. We don't know what will happen, but I don't think the move yesterday was a move to rebuild, because that move makes no sense for a rebuild. In my eyes, at least, it makes no sense given Wall's age.
Mr. Adam, we were both moves being made. We were both incorrect. Joseph Wall makes $4 million to the year 2028.
Oh, okay, it's not 5. Okay.
So we were both wrong.
But you know,
dumping cap is a selling move.
Dan, okay, I will address you in a minute, but I do want to get to the comments here. And that Canadian White Trash guy saying he thinks the Leafs will stick to status quo, try to build a team that are hired to make certain players look good, equaling no cup. And you know what? That is a fair assessment of this team. We just don't know yet until we see free agency and what they do, and even what they do at the draft. And then the Daniels point here, you know what? I think Austin Matthews, I think a new coach is exactly what he needs. You look at the goal scoring under Craig Berube. By the way, Dan, who was your experienced Stanley Cup winning coach, who you could argue was worse than Sheldon Keefe. You can make that argument before you get all mad at me. Yes, he won one more playoff game than Sheldon Keefe. Craig Berube had one of the worst Leaf seasons I've seen since the Grabowski and Komarov era. It was god-awful. So, and doing that with a bunch of talented players is just ludicrous. So, look, they've made a decision to bring in someone who's used to the Toronto market. He's used to the pressure, has success of Austin Matthews and William Nylander, and is someone that is an offensive-minded coach. He turned LA into a team that could actually score. No offense, under DJ Smith, that team couldn't score to save their lives as soon as they let go of Hiller. You saw that in those playoff games. They were right there, Colorado, if they could just remember that you need to score a goal to win a game.
2-1.
And
they had a big injury.
I actually don't hate this decision. And Dan, you talked about the trade being a sell move. No, being a sell would have been trading Joseph Wall for a second-round pick. That's a sell. Emerson is a cheaper version of Joseph Wall. They also gave up Benoit too. They put up very comparable numbers. Simone Benoit last year was terrible. And Dan, we have the Leafs have too many defensemen who can't skate. So they need to bring in some young puck moving defensemen. And you're not going to like this. I would rather have there's a lot of defensemen on this roster. I even think in the Marlies who I'd rather have up than Simone Benoit, even Troy Stetcher. I hope he stays as a Leaf. I don't know if he will, but I'd rather have Troy Stetcher in my lineup than Simone Benoit. He wants to stay. So, like Simone Benoit, there's no room for another mediocre, sometimes physical defenseman who can't skate. There's no room for that. So that's why he was dealt. And you're bringing in a guy with more speed. You don't know what the third-round draft pick will turn into either. So, look, I think you saying it's a sell, when on paper you traded players who have reasonably equal value who are just different. No, it's not a sell.
In my
Ladies
opinion,
and gentlemen,
48 hours
for your money.
Woo! In my opinion,
the Leafs defense needs revamped. It makes me want to vomit right now. And yeah, Will, I absolutely agree with you. I don't want to vomit. I just had a great dinner. But like,
it was amazing.
But like, I do agree with you, Will. And making that trade they did yesterday does change up the defense. I think more needs to be done, but I actually think it's in the right direction. Isidore hiring Adam Foote, a tank season again. I don't think the Leafs are looking for that. And again, Adam Foote is a coach with zero experience. I think guys like Bruce Cassidy is almost more experienced than they wanted. They wanted a new age analytical guy, which Jim Hiller is. I like that they interviewed 25 coaches. I like that they took their time.
Do what? This last 24 hours reminds me of Justin Trudeau's new girlfriend. It's hot and it's cold and it's yes and it's no and it's in and it's out. I don't know what's the words I saw. I'm sorry. But anyway, that's what it reminds me of. It's very like one way or the other. It's black and it's white, you know?
Yeah, and Will, thank you here. You know, I agree with bringing him some new bodies into the lineup and seeing how they can go from there. And the end of the day, Dan, Toronto has to make changes. You can't put out the same lineup and expect the same
I
result.
understand that,
So
but
changes are being made. And Dan, I'm sorry, but if you think Joseph Woll had this really high value of an 877 save percentage and a god-awful World Hockey Championship, I think they're lucky they got anything for him, to be honest.
No, we
That's
don't
a
have
good
first
point.
anymore.
I just feel like this past decade, we're just recycling like secondary players, like bottom 3 defensemen and bottom 6 forward, and they're valuable to a team. I'm not disputing that. But I feel like recycling those type of players, we're not going to see a major change. I feel like
Dan, we don't know what's going to happen in this offseason. We don't know what
that's
Chiaka is going to do because it's a new GM. So we have to wait and see what he does. You can't say, like, yeah, that's what we've been doing, but how do we know that's what Chiaka is going to do? We don't know what his philosophy for his building his roster is going to be. We didn't really
and the
see
Leafs,
it. He actually ended up bringing in a lot of. He ended up drafting and or signing a good amount of the players that make up Utah's core now. He drafted Clayton Keller
and Logan Cooley.
Was that not somebody he drafted, Dan? Did you not know that? I suggest you look up Chiaka's drafting and signing thing because he brought in him and he brought in some other players. He was there.
He brought a team that just made the playoffs now. And how many years ago was this?
Dan, that's a rebuilding team, though. That's how a rebuild
2020 they made the playoffs, Dan. When the COVID year they made playoffs, technically
Dan,
he was gone.
So Dan, I'm going to say this to you, then. Does that mean Kent Hughes is a bad GM because it took Montreal 4 years to go on a real playoff run? No, he's a brilliant GM.
I think he's brilliant, yeah.
Exactly. So you're saying Checo was a bad GM because it took time for a rebuild to work. That's just stupid.
Yeah, like 10 years, well, not 4 years.
It was not 10 years, Dan.
Look it up. When was Chychrun the GM? I believe it was 2016.
First of all, his name's not Chychrun, so if you're going to criticize the man, at least learn how to pronounce his name.
I'm like Don Cherry pronouncing names.
And you look at, as Adam said, a lot of the pieces that are giving the team success now were pieces that he brought in. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, you got to remember this, they're going to be very different next year. Do you guys know how much cap space they have going into next season, going into free agency?
Like 20+ million, something like that?
Give me a guess. Adam's saying around 30 million. What's your guess, Dan?
Well, getting rid of Joseph Woll and Benoit salary is going to help. So that's roughly about $5.5 million right there. So I'm going to say about $12 million.
$27 million in cap space for next season.
Oh, that's good.
So you have to realize, right? And it's not even like the Leafs have a bunch of free agents. It's just Yarncroke, Robertson, Marcelli, and Quinlan. Right. Like, it's not like there's a whole bunch of guys. And right now, Stolarz and Hildeby, in theory, would be your two goalies. And I still think Stolarz, there's a good chance you try to find a way to move him before that July 1st when his modified no trade kicks in.
For sure, yeah.
I still won't be shocked if you see him traded within the next couple days. And you have to look, especially there's rumors that the Leafs are moving on from Morgan Riley. Like, Dan, you say you want big pieces moved. That's a big piece moved. I'll be honest. It'll be a very sad day to me when Morgan Riley is no longer a Toronto Maple Leaf.
I agree. I love Morgan.
This guy has put out his heart and soul for this franchise, and it just hasn't worked.
I think it needs a better partner.
But look, the Leafs are going to have a lot of cap space, even with Matthews and Nylander being paid over $20 million. Because after Matthews, Nylander, and Nyes, I mean, JT's only 4.3, Max Domi 3.7, and he's probably going to be on the injury reserve all year. So actually, that's going to put you to over 30 million. Dakota Joshua 3, Lorentz 1.3, Cowan 900,000, Pizzetta 812, Bo Grew 812.
So he is a good shape here, actually.
So like, it's not as bad to potentially do this. We have a question here from Will. They need to upgrade for sure. I hope necessary changes need to happen. Question for you guys: would you rebuild? Would rebuilding the roster help the team? In my opinion, let's take out the weakest players. Adam, I will let you start here. Like, do you think this team realistically should have been going the rebuild mode and they still might be? Or are you seeing this more as a retool and just trying to bring in some more support with that $27 million in cap space?
So the obvious answer is that when you have the players that we still have, if it was a rebuild, Matthews and Nylander need to be traded. And it's quite obvious at this point that they're not going to be traded. So as long as those two are there, there is no option but to retool. Unless those two are traded like magically within the next couple of weeks before July 1st, this team is rebuilding. And there's no, I mean, not rebuilding, retooling, sorry. Without those two, then it's a rebuild. But if you have Matthews and Nylander, you can't not try and compete. At the end of the day, that's the situation the Leafs are in. And if those two are going to stay, which is what it apparently looks like it's going to be at this point, for at least now, then you have no other choice. You can't do a rebuild with those two. It's not.
I agree with you, Adam. I think
not.
When you have, I would even argue too, between Matthews, Nylander, and Nyes, when you have that much talent tied up to $30 million, you can't really rebuild. You could feel the tension. Ooh, tension through the screen.
Passing about the Maple Leafs.
What do you think, Dan, to Will's question? Are you saying that, do you personally see this trying to still maybe be a rebuild? Or do you agree with Adam that when you have $30 million and your three players, it kind of has to be a retool?
I think it's a great question from Will. I agree with Adam in the sense that they can't rebuild with those players under contract. I totally get it. I agree with it. I just don't think it's the right move. I think the right move would have been, because it's not just this 1 year. Let's say they had 10 years of successful playoff runs, and 1 year someone stubbed their toe and missed the playoffs. That's not the case. I feel like even in Montreal, it was 4 years ago, they still made the playoffs last year. So it only took them 2 years of non-playoffs to get them back into the playoffs. I just feel like with this team, we've had a decade plus of the same mediocrity, and I'm just tired of it. So I feel like the right move would have been a rebuild. I know it would have been impossible to move. I don't think you can move Knives because I think he's a very rare talent to find nowadays. And to move Nylander to the Matthews is going to be impossible because of the no trade clause. So I totally get it why they're doing what they're doing. As in a perfect world, I would have liked to see something a little different.
I'll say this, Dan. I think what you're saying, if the Leafs do a massive retool with this potentially $30 million of cap space if Max Domi ends up not playing all year, which I think is unfortunately very possible, and the team still sucks, then you will see a rebuild. I think this is a last-ditch effort with Matthews still having 2 years on his deal, because let's say this year's a disaster again, then he'll get traded in the 27-28 season. I think this is one last effort to try to get the Matthews era to be a success and not a failure. Yeah. Because realistically, if they never make it past the second round, you'll look and be like, all that talent of all that little success was a very disappointing era.
It's actually really sad.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot for Vancouver as well, Daniel. They're in a very different position than Toronto, because they don't really, besides maybe Pettersson and all the Pettersons, they don't really have a Vander Kane's not part of the success rebuild.
I really like what's his name? Not Bozer. What's
Besser.
His name? Besser, thank you.
Interesting.
I really like Brock Besser. I think he's an underrated player.
Winning the pick this year, it's like the Islanders last year with Schaefer. Well, Toronto, unfortunately, I don't think the first overall pick is going to do as much for Toronto as what it did for the Islanders, just because in my personal opinion, I don't think McKenna or Stenberg or Matthew Schaefer level where like Matthew Schaefer was in the Hart conversation. He got the odd vote. That's how good he was this year. I don't see Stenberg or McKenna, which it looks like the Leafs are drafting McKenna, is going to even be in the conversation for the Hart Trophy this year. So that's going to be tougher, but I do feel Toronto has more cap space to work with to try to do more. The Islanders basically just added Schaefer, and then they became almost a playoff team, right?
Yeah, they lost Dobson, added Schaefer, boom.
Now, mind you, any team with number one pick, it's going to help. That's definitely true. And
I'm curious
who is Hiller. So Hiller, I'll bring up this graphic again. So Jim Hiller was the assistant coach in Detroit, assistant coach in Toronto with Babcock. Then he was the assistant coach with the Islanders with Barry Trotz. Then he was the assistant and the head coach for the LA Kings. And during his run with the LA, I'll remove the tickers so you can see those final stats. 93 wins, 58 losses, 24 overtime losses with a point percentage of 600, which is 60%. Those aren't bad numbers, right? So it's not like I actually think this might be a happy medium between a really experienced old geezer and a young guy with no experience. You're kind of sitting right in that middle there. So at least the team did their due diligence. Keep the old geezers in Toronto. Toronto's not, but I mean, besides the defense, it's not like the team's like 35, 36. Most of them are quote unquote in their prime years.
Randy, you're a very angry individual about the Leafs. Very angry individual.
Should have been a rebuild like Vancouver. We should have rebuilt years ago. Yeah, Vancouver was tough because you kept, I think Vancouver, this is going to sound weird, was in a similar situation to Toronto. When you have Quinn Hughes, you can't rebuild because Quinn Hughes is arguably the best player in the NHL. He's
on Patterson, right? I'm shocked at the drop off on Patterson. Like, absolutely shocked. He was a 100-point guy. Now he's what, a 40-point guy? Like, that's a huge drop in like a couple years in his 20s. Like, very disappointing, unfortunately.
Yeah, that Matthew Schaefer injury in the World Juniors as the door was tough, right? That shoulder injury.
Yeah,
but the Islanders were right to draft him. I remember I said it back then, like, you have to draft Matthew Schaefer. This kid's if he's healthy, he's a difference maker.
Jacob, I want to talk about the comment just below the one you just brought up about the this one. I want to say the way that the draft was set up this year for the PWHL is just, I hate it. It is no good. So they did it. So the way they did it was, so usually the draft, how they determine the draft is so the 4 teams make the playoffs, 4 teams make the playoffs, the rest miss. So the team that gets the first overall pick, they did the first 2 right, whereas like the 2 worst teams, 1 and 2, of course. So you would think next up would be New York and Toronto, who are the next 2 worst teams. Those 2 didn't make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But then instead of doing that, which is what they normally do, they decided we're going to put all 4 of their expansion teams at 3 through 6. And then 7 and 8 go to the other 2 teams. So they basically gifted. And then Vegas made a trade with Detroit to get the 3rd overall pick. So Vegas had 3 and 4. And so basically the draft order that was given is like basically the PWHL is just trying to make their new 4 expansion teams, including Vegas, the best leg up they could have, because this draft was absolutely loaded at the top. Either way, they would have gotten good players, but the way they did the draft order took way too long. They announced it like 3 days ago.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Like, it was the way they did it and the way they've gone about this offseason shows that this league is definitely still run by one guy, and all the teams are still owned by one guy. And it's very apparent that the league, as quickly as possible, needs to get separate owners for every team, because this offseason can't happen again. This offseason was brutal.
Really interesting point.
Not a good offseason for the league at all.
I will say, though, to this comment, which is normally key, which he's using YouTube today. Abby Murphy, very talented individual, plays for the University of Minnesota, and in 31 games put up 40 goals, 26 assists for 66 points, 66 penalty minutes, and a plus 36. So she can play. She was also on the U.S. Olympic team where she put up 7 points in 7 games. So she can handle herself at the highest level.
Well, Caroline Harvey,
look at all her numbers, NCAA to World Championships, they're point per game or better. So
the argument is that she could have been 1, but Carolina Harvey, I think it was Carolina Harvey, went 1, and she is probably the best prospect, and she's a defense. She plays defense, and she is absolutely nasty. She was at the Olympics, and she was arguably the U.S.'s best player. And that team was loaded. That U.S. team she was probably the best player at the Olympics as a collegiate athlete, which is insane to think about. She wasn't even a pro in the Olympics. She was playing NCAA hockey, and she was the best player debatably the best player on Team USA. She's insane. She's very talented, Caroline Harvey. Cool. And it sucks that she's American, because she's going to dominate international hockey. She's going to dominate international hockey for the next.
Yes, we do have a PWHL in Toronto. Getting one in Hamilton as well. So we're going to have 2 teams.
Which is awesome to have another QWE rivalry, with the highway.
QEW rivalry, Dan.
QEW, thank you. I knew I didn't say that. Like, yes. Thank you very much.
That's not right, but you got the letters in.
Yeah, letters like law and order. Spectres, exactly. I mean, I unfortunately haven't made a PWHL game yet, but I really want to go. They play in the Coliseums. Now the Coliseums are happening place. You got the Toronto Marlies there. That's one win-winning Memorial Cup. You got the Toronto Spectres, and you got the Toronto Temple, who is our first Canadian NWA team. So, yeah, very popular in Vancouver as well.
Very popular in Toronto as well, actually. The PWHL, and I haven't been to a game either, but I have friends who've gone, and they say the atmosphere is way better than a Leaf game. Like, it's a lot of fun. People are loud. Yeah. It's a sellout every night. Look, I wonder, too, are they going to outgrow that Ricoh Coliseum soon? And I think they might. And I'm curious to see what the PWHL team's like in Hamilton. It's a beautiful arena in Hamilton.
DD Coliseum holds about 15,000 people.
They just redid the whole thing. I know some people who work in the building, and it's absolutely great.
Jacob, but then the problem is once they outgrow Jacob, but once they outgrow the Coliseum, Ricoh, where do they go? Because they have no owner. The deal that they have to play there is negotiated by the league.
Correct.
With permission from MLSE to play there.
Yeah,
the MLS then that becomes you still have to negotiate with MLSE to get to play in at Scotia. They have to do it when they go and play at Scotiabank as well. Like it becomes difficult because there is literally not a lot of space to go build a new arena. You would have to share Scotiabank, and then that becomes an issue where will MLSE let them without them having to be the owners in the first place. But we don't know when the league will actually
Stanley Cup champion.
We don't know when the league will actually try to get owners for all the teams, to be fair, because they haven't said when they're going to be doing that yet.
Yes, I don't know why you said morning spot up either. I'm like, I don't think the time zone's that much different in Raleigh.
But... Yeah, like, I'll just one with it, you know. But it's I gotta say, even though I haven't been to a Spectres game, I've been on the GO train when the Spectre games end.
I hear a train coming.
Yeah. And, the fans all decked out on the gear. We're all pumped for it. I've been talking to a couple of fans on the train. They really like it. I think it's really sad that because, I think there's a huge opportunity, there's a huge market here to build a lot, kind of like the CFL. I think it's a real untapped market that people can get into. So it'll be interesting to see, like Adam was saying, where it glows into, because it's just going to keep going up and up.
Well, I think the key thing for the PWHL will have to be ownership, right? And until that ownership gets completely settled, it's going to be tough. Well, but the league is constantly growing. It is getting new fans every week.
First. I think the goal is to get them all successful before getting ownership.
That makes sense.
Point, I think.
Lane was a big fan of the PWHL.
Not surprising, given that they have less teams, and it's it's not in a big arena, and it's not a big. I don't think it's as big. It's not a big production. That's the issue. The NHL draft they've made it too big of a production for its own, for what it is. It's a draft. It doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be a massive production like the NHL makes it.
And it's interesting comment here too about needing more, shared rinks. Bridgeport story going back 3 years where if they shared a rink, PWHL, AHL, and NHL arena availability should be the Walters group build some rinks. Maybe that is an option too, right? But what's tough is especially in the city of Toronto, it's not like what are you going to do? Put a rink on top of the ACC and have an elevator? I guess you could do what Ottawa does and put a hocky rink under a football stadium. I don't know. You're just really running out of options. Maybe in Toronto, people won't like it. I think you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking. Maybe it goes to Vaughan.
Because the issue then becomes is that the fan base, if your fan base is based in Toronto and the fan base is based more in the heart of the city and around,
that's a good point.
You're taking the issue for the Senators. And I'm going to bring this up every time this is ever talked about with Toronto moving out of the area a little bit, is that the biggest issue for the Senators in terms of attendance was that they left the center, they were outside of the city center.
Yes.
And their fan base did not want to make the travel. Our Toronto Scepter fans going to want to go out to Vaughan when games are going to start at 7:30, trying to deal with Toronto traffic.
100%. You're right.
Probably not. That becomes something you got to think about, is that Toronto traffic is basically hell on earth when trying to travel the games in which the games are going to be starting. The benefit for the Scepters playing at the Coliseum was that it's literally right off of the GO train. That is the benefit, is that they don't have to drive to the arena, their fans. So it becomes an issue when they get too big, is where will they play? The obvious answer is Scotiabank. The issue becomes is that two other teams play there, and you have to deal with MLSE, which is already tough to deal with probably as it is.
I have a crazy idea. We're talking about moving a team and building a new arena in Toronto. Ricoh Coliseum is a classic arena. It's over 100 years old. If you haven't been, I definitely recommend going. It's a really cool place. However, why not expand Ricoh Coliseum? You look at all the space on exhibition grounds. There's definitely room there to build the. I don't want to tear down a classic at Ricoh Coliseum, right? And I don't know if you can build expansion on an older building like that. I don't know. So you might have to tear it down, just keep the core pieces of the building. But why not expand it? Because you look at it now. I was curious the other day, so I was looking into this. For a hockey game, Ricoh Coliseum holds 7,700 people. For a basketball game, it holds 8,500 people because the court size of a basketball is obviously smaller than a hockey arena, right? So I look at, if you build an expansion, let's say if you add 6,000 to 4,000 seats, you would be around 12,000 for a hockey game and 14,000 for a basketball game. Because I don't think you can support an arena as big as Scotiabank holds. Like Scotiabank is 18,800 for a hockey game and just under 20,000 for a basketball game. I think it's 19.7, 19.8, something like that. So you can't support an arena that big, obviously. But if you doubled the size, basically, of Ricoh Coliseum, I think that's the magic solution.
Well, the other option I was just thinking of, and I know it's exactly what I was just saying, maybe you don't do, but so a option is the biggest problem is that the Coliseum is literally a part of the Paramount Center, which is like right next door.
Yes, it is.
Is that's literally like you can walk into the Paramount Center from the Coliseum. Like that's a big issue, and that's why I would think the issue is that the MLSE technically operates it, but the city owns Rehawk Coliseum.
Oh,
that's the other thing. The city owns the land that Rehawk is on. MLSD operates it. They have an agreement with the city that they operate it. They do all the operation. They do everything that has to do with they do all the upkeep on it, everything. That's all MLSD. That's because they have an agreement with the city to operate the arena. Right. Now I don't actually know if that's like a building that can't be like rebuilt or anything. I just don't think MLSE has ever tried, because what's the point of doing it for an AHL team?
We're not architects.
And they're not going to want to do it for a PWHL team that they don't own.
Yeah.
That is the other thing.
Yeah.
The other option I was just thinking of is because the Raptors 905 is in Mississauga. Like they're right.
Yes.
I think it's like just basically like not even 20 minutes outside of Toronto, I think. Something like that.
Yeah. It's very close.
I know it's in Mississauga.
Yes.
I wonder if you could do something not so like Vaughan, but like if you can do it like because even like Rehawk is not that deep into Toronto. It's really not that deep into Toronto. If you can find a space that's not too deep into downtown Toronto that you can build an arena, that's your other solution. The only other one is to find space potentially on the CNE ground where you can build an arena.
Now, I have one other thought on this, and then Lane Dashing Dashco sent us a great video about the Leafs head coaching hire that we got to get to. Spot up. I know, great comment about Jim Hiller. I have one comment on this that people are going to think I am insane. But the ACC, you could argue, was too small for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yes.
So was it the Leafs that built the new arena on the CNE grounds? And is it the Toronto Specters that move to the ACC, because the ACC or Scotiabank Arena, whatever the hell you want to call it, is too small for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know why they made it so tiny. It's not.
I'd say it's even too small for the Raptors at this point.
Like, you could
It's a
realistically
big arena.
hear me out, because they're
Pretty big arena, Toronto.
they're saying that the Ontario government desperately wants to redo CNE grounds to bring it back to its heyday. Right. Putting in a new state-of-the-art 20,000 fan hockey, 25,000 fan basketball is exactly what you need to revitalize the old CNE grounds. So maybe that's a way, Toronto Specters get their bigger arena, because I actually think they could consistently sell enough tickets in the ACC with the way it's going. And then you get the Toronto Maple Leafs getting the new fancy arena. That makes more sense.
You gotta go back though and think that arena, given they've sold out there for 1 game, 2 games a year, to consistently do that, plus the cost to operate that arena that could ruin not to say that it will, but that could potentially ruin the franchise before it even gets off the ground. You know what I'm saying though? Like,
I'm not saying
you're saying to do it now, Jacob, but the Scotiabank Arena is perfectly fine for Toronto and the Raptors. Like, it's not crazy that the Toronto doesn't even sell out. They don't even sell out the rink. To be fair, they don't even sell that place out. Neither team sells out the place on if they were selling it out with way more interest, then I would say go ahead. You could potentially build a new arena, but it's not. Not doing that at all. There's no need for the Leafs to move yet, but there has to be somewhere. They have to start thinking about that. That's something that the owners will have to deal with when that comes to play.
When the time comes.
But it is something. I think that's why the league chose to do it at Rio, because it was enough to sustain the team for as long as it needs to. I think that was the whole plan. That's why they weren't even planning on going to Rio the first year. The first year was just supposed to be a man-made, but there was way more interest than I think they expected there to be for tickets. But they'll have to figure something out, and they'll have to do it within the next decade. Like, there's still a while for them to go. Like, there's no need to jump too quickly when the league is still 3. This is going to be its 4th season. Like, it's way too early, I think, to make a jump just yet.
There's a couple problems with your plan, Jacob. I love the idea. I love the thinking. But I'm just doing math in my head. The NHL plays 84, starting next season. It plays 84 games a year. Means 42 home games. The NBA plays 82 games, meaning 41 home games. Plus, you got to get playoff rounds. There's 365 days in the year. You add 40 and 40. You're at 80 with today's Austin playoffs. You're about roughly 160 days, which is about 6 months of the year. If you put the PWHL and the NWA, they play roughly 30 games a year, means you're only getting 15 home games. So you'll have this giant building a lot more empty. The other issue with
and you're being very close-minded, thinking it's going to be empty, because you're not thinking about all the other events you can hold in downtown Toronto.
No, for sure, I get that too, right? I'm just saying.
And why is it empty? Because now the Toronto Marlies can play there potentially.
For sure. The other issue, though, with this is the business side of it. Scotiabank just signed a massive deal to be called the Scotiabank Arena. I believe it's like 40 years or some crazy thing. And the main reason why they gave MLSE like $4 billion, it's some crazy number. I don't know exactly what's up in my head. But the reason why it's such a massive deal is because that's where the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Toronto Raptors play. If they take that out, then that's going to avoid that humongous contract that basically funds MLSE.
Okay, but Dan, that was a 20-year deal signed in 2017, so it'd be done in 2038. An arena is going to take probably at least 2 to 3 years to build properly and do all the marketing and all the hype. So I'm not saying this is a plan that's done tomorrow. But
I
I'm
hear
saying for the PWHL, if it continues to build up, I don't think sharing an arena with the Leafs is really an option. So you have to start looking. And if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, by 2030, the ACC is a 30-year-old outdated rink. There's a big
Right.
difference. You always go on, the Leafs are the mecca of hockey. They're the end-all to end-all. It's not like it's Maple Leaf Gardens where there's so much history. The ACC has been a history of failure.
True. Yeah.
But Jacob,
So
when you
it's very,
think about
very
it,
different. I'm not, again, I think you guys are taking it out of context thinking I'm saying this deal would happen today. I'm talking
no-
10, 15 years down the road.
but Jacob, I didn't
True.
say it's going to happen now, but what I said was that the PWHL is too young to think about where they're moving when they don't have ownership for the teams.
Mhm.
None
That
of the
makes
teams, the
sense.
only person, one person owns 12 teams right now. That's how it's operated. He's basically spending chump change right now, but he cannot continue to own all 12 teams while building arenas for all 12 teams. That's what I'm saying. Now, he doesn't have to do that for all teams because a bunch of the teams have, at least Vancouver has its own arena. But the issue is, Jacob, when you think about it,
that's a good point.
MLSC owns Scotiabank Arena.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What's more likely to happen? They keep that arena and sell it to somebody, or they tear it down and just build a completely state-of-the-art new arena. Which one do you think they would rather do?
Well, they can't tear it down, and where the hell are the Leafs going to play for 2 years?
But
you can't play in Ricoh Coliseum for 2
saying
years.
that what would be more likely for MLSC to do?
What would be
tear
more
down the
likely for
arena?
them would be to keep Scotiabank as a rental property, which we know that's what Rogers likes to do. I don't know if you guys know this. So Rogers has a whole division that's just real estate. They have an entire division that is just real estate. They have billions of dollars invested in real estate.
Correct.
And again, I'm not saying this would happen today. And I get what you're saying, Adam. I'm not even saying the PWHL was thinking this yet, but I think this is something, as Daniel says, if we do get to 20 teams,
They're
all
not
of a sudden,
going to 20
you have 20 teams. The season potentially gets longer.
Wait, Jacob,
True. Yep.
Jacob, why are we talking about 20 teams when it's been a known fact that the league? So Daniel, what the league's original plan was that 12 teams, they got to 12 teams, and now they're going to stay at 12 teams for the foreseeable future until the league becomes profitable.
Mhm.
That's the goal.
Well, I've also heard about
but I'm telling you
expansions.
what the Daniel, but I'm telling you what the league has said. The league said that their plan was to get to 12 teams and then keep the league as is because they have 12 franchises now. But technically, I don't think any of the franchises are actually making money yet because the league is 3 years in. No league is making money 3 years in usually. I don't know if they are or not. So I could be wrong on that, but I think they want to be sustainable because the way things are going is that the franchises keep changing over players. It's hard to build dedicated fan bases when the players keep interchanging and there's no there's no player, like every year there's free agency players are just leaving their teams right now. That's what's happening because the league doesn't have long-term contracts yet. So what I heard, what the league said originally was that they wanted to get to 12 teams. They wanted to stay at 12 teams, and they wanted to allow the franchises to grow within their communities. That's what I heard. That's apparently what the league said was their plan originally. That's all I'm letting you know.
I heard what Daniel was saying. I heard 20 in the next 5. Now, maybe we're wrong. I don't know, but that's what I've heard. I could be wrong, but I get your point, Adam, about the players interchanging. Like, Jacob, correct me if I'm wrong, as you're more a CFL expert than I am. I love the CFL, but you could literally coach a football team, Jacob. You're like that good at it. When I go to Argo games and all this, I see a lot of people buy the jerseys with alpha names and with alpha numbers. And I feel people do that because what Adam's point was, there's a small league and they don't sign long-term contracts. The players interchange a lot. So I wonder if that's the same thing with the PWHL.
Now, Dan, the difference is still that's football culture versus hockey culture. You go to football in the States, and a lot of them are wearing jerseys with no names on them. that's just football culture versus hockey culture. It's just very different. But
I don't know. I see a lot of Tom Brady jerseys and Terrell Owens jerseys and Dukowski jerseys and Manning
that's completely
jerseys.
different. You're talking about goats versus players. I'm sure I can walk around and find someone wearing a Wayne Gretzky jersey. Does that mean they think Wayne Gretzky still is going to play? And they're a fan of even the team he was on? No, it's just because he's a GOAT. But interestingly enough, get back to the Leafs coaching decisions a little bit. 50% of our viewers think it was the right decision in our poll. 20% say no. 17% say they suck either way. And 13% say who cares. So now I want to know, what does Lane Dashko think of this decision by the Toronto Maple Leafs? Does he think it was a good one? Lane couldn't join us tonight on the live broadcast, but he did pre-record a segment on his thoughts on the decision. So let's take a listen to what Lane has to say.
Let's go.
What's going on, Analyst Desk? It's your boy, Dashing Lane Dashko. Of course, as you can hear and probably see, I'm not 100% right now. I didn't want the desk to get sick. I didn't want them to get my allergy, so I'm recording this ahead of time before the Analyst Desk actually goes on live. So if you're watching this, this is past Lane talking to future you. So hello, future people. So yeah, as we all know today, the Leafs hired Jim Hiller, former assistant coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, back in the 2015 and 2018 days when Matthews was with Mr. Mike Babcock. And, let's just say a lot of people aren't too happy with it. And honestly, I'm one of those people because you look at the way it's gone, right? Like, I mean, I know the names of the list weren't the greatest, and I know what Adam's probably going to say. You got to pick someone. If you didn't want Patrick Waugh, you don't want this guy, you don't want that guy. Well, you got to be happy with somebody. And I will agree with that to an extent because I feel like no matter who got picked today, there was going to be negative feedback, right? Like, I wouldn't have liked Patrick Waugh either. So you could say, well, Lane, you got to be happy with somebody. And I get that. I just would have I would have liked like someone like, I was really rooting for Joe Pavelski, to be honest, because I think bringing in someone like, I think that would have been a cool route to go. But it's clear that the Maple Leafs are kind of going in this direction of trying to make Austin Matthews happy. And there's good and bad to that, right? Because, Jacob, you mentioned this the other night with with culture, right? And I don't know if you could just build culture around one guy. Like, I get Austin Matthews as the star player, and you want to make him happy that maybe he'll resign and stay and not leave like Marner does. But at the same time, you also got to run a team, right? And whether or not things have happened in the past few days that result on Matthews, we don't even know if Matthews was involved in this. But it kind of looks like, from the organization's point, and at least from Chayka's point of view, that they are almost kind of saying, hey, we're gonna do what makes Austin Matthews happy. And again, I just kind of get scared that that's the direction we're going, because if we're trying to please Austin Matthews, there's no telling whether he's going to pull a Mitch Marner, or is he already told us he's not coming back, and we're just kind of like, in a way trying to kind of get him back when someone's already made up their. It's like when you have a bad fight with your friend, your friend or something, and they say we don't want to talk for a week, but you're still trying to reach out and talk to them, right? So it's like, are we playing ourselves into a situation where the organization is kind of doing what they did what Shanahan did, which was try to hold on to something that's just not there? Or do they think that Chayka and Sundin, with all these moves, will make Austin Matthews happy enough to restay in this organization? I just get concerned, because if that is the case, and they are taking Matthews' feedback very seriously, how does that involve the rest of the team? What if he gets in a fight with somebody and he says, I'm not going to be here if Max Domi is here. This guy's taking too many penalties. What if he is reaching out and saying, like, this Max Domi guy takes too many penalties. I don't want to be always on the PK, or, I want this guy on the team. I want to play with my American teammate. I want this guy on the team. Go spend the money, and I need a strong winger, so go trade what you want. Go trade this guy. Go get this guy. Can we go acquire Connor Hellebuck, because I played with him in Team USA? I know he wants to get out. Can we try to go get him? and I get that stars should have a say. I'm not saying that stars shouldn't have a say on their roster. I think they should, but I just hope that we're doing it the right way and not doing it in a way where we're trying to please someone that has already made up their mind. Because what if we go 2 years down the road, we could have traded him this year when he already made up his mind, and then we're playing ourselves right into Mitch Marner 2.0, when we could have just literally said, okay, Matthews, you're not happy. We get it. Give us 5 teams, restock the cupboard. But Keith Pelly didn't want to do that. And, it's funny, when we talked about all these GM hires, right? We already knew that John Chayka was one of the only people clearly in the room that was willing to do what Keith Pelly wanted, because it's no secret that most of the GMs wanted to trade Austin Matthews, right? Most of the GMs wanted to go ask every player for their no movement clause and what teams they would go to. Most teams wanted to do a rebuild. And you could argue, well, at least they'll have their picks for the next 2 years. They kind of have to be good. But it's just going to be, so I think it's going to be interesting to see. But, Jim Hiller, he hasn't had a lot of success in the NHL. Obviously with the LA Kings, he's had a lot of first-round exits, so I guess that's right up the Leafs' alley. And it's going to be interesting to see. But we do know they've been together. They've had positive experiences together. Jim Hiller and Austin Matthews obviously have a good friendship. I heard today, actually, in the Islanders organization, that the Jim Hiller and the AHL Marlies coach actually worked together in Bridgeport a few years back. So they have some chemistry there. I know Jim Hiller was an assistant coach, I believe, with Arizona when John Chayka was there. So Chayka does know a lot about him. So maybe this is just a guy that has said the right things. Obviously, he said the things that he heard the most, which is data-driven, very data-driven coach. Which again, I'm not big into the AI thing, but I know that John Chayka is. So we'll see what happens. But definitely I would say, very confusing last 48 hours for the Maple Leafs on trading a fan favorite in Joseph Wall, and then all those reports that came out, whether they're true or not, and then. Yeah, it's just interesting to see. It's been a busy 48 hours. I mean, at least he knows how to work a phone, but maybe he needs to give him put a parental lock on his phone. But let me know what you guys think. But yeah, at least got their coach. Let's just hope it's a good one. But I'll be in the comments, boys. See you later. Ciao.
It's the Analyst Desk. Welcome to the show. It's the Analyst Desk. Yeah, in case you didn't know, it's the Analyst Desk. Welcome to the show where every day feels like game day, bro.
And welcome back to the Analyst Desk. Thank you very much, Lane Dashco, for those comments. There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
From those comments.
So,
okay, Dan, go first.
Bobby?
Go first.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, I gotta say, I actually laughed out loud when Lane said that Hiller likes exiting the first round. So that's a comment. That was pretty funny. I gotta say, the one thing I forgot about when I was speaking about Lane pointing out is the analytic part of it. And the analytic, I wouldn't say it's necessarily AI. I say analytics. I think it's more numbers. Not necessarily AI, but numbers and charts and stats. And I think hockey's a little behind other sports, to be honest, when it comes to stuff like that. When you look at basketball, they use a lot of analytics, and a lot of the Raptors' success in 2019 was analytics. The Raptors was one of the first NBA
teams. Dan cannot use letters today.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Got to learn his ABCs.
I know. And the NBA team to have an analytic team. You also look at the Toronto Blue Jays, and in baseball, look at Moneyball, one of the classic sports movies of all time. Baseball is all analytics and all numbers. So it's not necessarily AI. It's keeping track of stats. And I think that's something hockey's behind of, and I think it's a very good thing to try, to be honest, because we're trying old school coaches is not working. We're trying rookie coaches is not working. We're trying to build in free agents is not working. We're trying to build in the draft system is not working. Try a trade whale problems is not working. We were throwing unlimited money on it, and then the salary cap came in 20 years ago. Right? So we tried all these different ways. So why not take a page out of the different sports and try analytics?
Well, you know what, Dan, I want to jump on the same thing you were saying about the AI comment, because analytics doesn't mean AI, right? So when I'm in marketing courses, it's a lot of analytics that we're diving into. And
yeah, I dug a lot of that too.
Football uses analytics like crazy.
Football,
right?
yes.
And hockey is very, very behind in it. And John Chikwa is a big analytics guy. And I think they want to bring in a coach that's also an analytics guy. And to bring up to the comments too, I want to swing back to the comments on this means that they trying to get Austin Matthews to leave. I think it's the complete opposite. I think they brought in a coach that it gets teams to playoffs, and you're expecting Austin Matthews to stay. I think this is a last-ditch effort to try to win with Austin Matthews, because let's be honest, the other coaching decisions, everyone said Patrick Waugh was too hot and heavy for the Toronto media. They said Joe Pavelski didn't have enough experience. I'm sorry, Bruce Cassidy's just known for losing in the playoffs just as much as any other coach. At least with Hiller, you're bringing in a guy that has experience. Yes, he does, dang it over it. About a guy that can...
He won a cup in Vegas and Boston.
He's also
he won a cup in Boston. What are you talking about, Dan?
Oh my bad.
He became a joke when his very good Boston team absolutely. I'm pretty sure he was the coach the year they set the win record. I think that might have been with Montgomery, but then he got fired the next year because his team absolutely collapsed in the playoffs.
We will be covering the NHL draft on Taylor Secret. We will go live for the entire day one. Dan hates it.
I think that's the NBA draft he's talking about, but I'm not actually sure.
I don't know. We probably won't be covering the NBA draft. NHL draft, we will be covering.
Sure,
I think he meant NHL. I believe he's a Chicago Blackhawks fan.
He is a Blackhawks fan.
I was just saying, because I saw Hawks. I'm like, well, that could be anything. But
I know. Let's go Marlies.
It's obvious Keith Pelly is going Swedish, so Matthews has. I don't think
there's no proof of that.
No, I'm not being difficult. And even, by the way, I did think Lane made some really good points in there as well. But at the same time, I think comparing Matthews to Marner is like comparing Dan to Usain Bolt, because they're both humans. They're two completely different situations. And at the end of the day, you brought in a coach that has had success with Austin Matthews. You wouldn't be doing, if you were trying to drive Austin Matthews out of the building, you would have brought Mike Babcock back, or you would have hired John Tortorella. You're not hiring Jim Hiller, right? And I think that's what people are not understanding. But I do agree with what Lane says. He has experience with the Toronto Marlies. He has experience with the Toronto market. He has experience with the Marlies coach. There are some positives in this situation. So
he doesn't have any experience with the Marlies.
And are you a human or are you a dancer?
Are we human? Are we dancer? It's like the TD commercial.
No, he wasn't a part of the Marlies, but he worked with the Marlies head coach back when they were he was part of the Islanders farm system.
Oh, okay. Well,
so he does have that relationship.
I disagree with not everything that Lane said, but I definitely disagree that this move was to make Matthews happy, because I don't think the Leafs have done anything that has made Matthews happy recently. But it's like, if the Leafs wanted to make Matthews happy, why would they hire Craig Berube? Because he played the exact opposite style, which what makes Matthews great. So honestly, I disagree with that fact, because it's like there's John Tavares was a part of the last year with Hiller. William Nylander has been around the exact same length as Austin Matthews. He was there when Hiller was there. Guess who else was there? Mo Riley. All of this hiring isn't a suck up to Matthews. It's just what makes the team best. And I think people are too caught up on the Austin Matthews part of this to even think about what's good for the team at the end of the day. Because Craig Berube was not good for the team, and all I heard was that Craig Berube was the greatest thing since sliced bread ahead of year 2, and he absolutely crapped the bed in year 2. So it's like, he may not have had the success in LA, but historically, coaches are better on their second go around with a different team. That is an historic fact. That is not something anybody can deny to me, because historically, coaches have been better the second time around than they were the first time.
And it's not
historic. It's the historic fact all over sports. And it's like, it's people are complaining about this guy when his track record about he went to the finals his first year with the second Western Hockey League team. Dan, you talked about looking that up. Did you miss the fact that he made the finals the year after he sucked the year before with his other team?
I did see that.
40 plus games all 3 years he was there.
He didn't win.
He didn't win, but who cares? Most of the teams in those leagues don't win. One team wins every year, Dan.
I like winners.
But Dan, how all the winners have contracts, Dan. Bruce Cassidy was fired for a reason. Everybody made fun of the guy his last year in Dallas. Like this guy, out of his 1 year, what else has he done? He hasn't won anything. He's won one Stanley Cup with Vegas. That's all he's done in his coaching career. He's a good coach, but his track record is not winning. His track record is the exact opposite. He's been to one final, won it once. That's all he's done. Dan, it's the complete opposite of a winner's track record. John Tortorella, nobody says he has a winning track record. He won one Stanley Cup 22 years ago. It's the exact opposite of winning track record. Sorry, I love John Tortorella. I think actually he's a very good NHL coach. I think a lot of people hate on him for no reason, but he's won one Stanley Cup. That was 22 years ago. He does not have a winning track record. He hasn't done anything until this year. And this year, he was the coach for a week until the end of the regular season. Nobody else that we interviewed has a winning track record. None of the coaches available have winning track records. The only coach, there's 2 coaches that honestly in this league have winning track records. Rod Brindamore, who's been amazing with Carolina despite only one NHL title, and then probably the best coach in the NHL right now in John Cooper, who has won 2 Stanley Cups with the Lightning, set the franchise, he's gone to 3 Cup finals, won twice, set the NHL win record at one point, and the Lightning have been a perennial playoff team every year since.
Paul Maurice has won multiple cups.
Basically, Paul Maurice is another one. There's 3. There's 3 coaches with a winning track record.
And that's a fair
multiple years of excellence in the NHL, but they all have contracts.
That's a good comment. I like.
The thing is that the Leafs keep doing the same thing of getting coaches with winning track records. It hasn't worked. The one coach we had that was actually a success, we fired, and he wasn't an NHL coach beforehand. Hiller is an NHL coach. He doesn't have a winning track record. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen now. Everybody's complaining because there's one guy they wanted. Every person, you can't tell me otherwise. Everybody wanted one person. They all thought the Leafs were going to do exactly what they wanted. They didn't get it, so they're acting like a bunch of whiny crybabies. And I'm over it. I'm over it at this point because everybody's complaining, and this guy hasn't had a chance yet. It's not an Austin Matthews hiring. It's what's best for the team.
The person who I wanted for his job, we haven't even mentioned in this whole episode yet, in a whole hour and 14 minutes. So I'm going to mention it. The person I wanted has won multiple Stanley Cups, has a winning track record, and it is current available. No one's even said it, not even in the comments yet. So I'll say who it is. Daryl Sutter.
That's
idiotic.
My
God, Dan, that's a terrible.
Dan, Dan.
I'm sorry.
That is about as dumb as when you said Sean Avery is going to make the Hall of Fame.
No,
Number
Dan.
one.
Oh.
Number
Daryl
2.
Sutter.
Dan. Daryl Sutter has not coached in the NHL in over 10 years. Yep. He does not know how to coach offensive players. He helped the scratched Jaromir Jagr when Calgary didn't know how to score goals. He's a terrible coach. The only reason why he had success in Calgary is because Jerome McGinley took that team to the Cup Finals kicking and screaming. That team sucked. Jerome McGinley and Kiprusoff basically were that entire team. Daryl Sutter is not a good coach in this NHL. He was a good coach 20 years ago. He's not a good coach now. His last stint in the NHL was absolutely dreadful. Like, Dan, I'm sorry. And when you talk about winning,
there's a reason he doesn't have a job, Dan.
And Dan, and you keep talking about winning pedigree and winning culture, okay? And I know you're the biggest Chad Kelly fan, right? So answer this to me. Does Chad Kelly bringing winning pedigree?
Yeah.
Why? He had won one Grey Cup where he played 1.5 quarters, and then the next time he had to be the guy, he played the worst statistic Argo playoff game in
doesn't
Toronto
have a
Argonaut
winning
history.
culture.
So by your theory, the Toronto Argo should have dumped him right then and there, by your theory, because he does not bring in winning pedigree. Statistically, Dan,
He
it was
won
the
in his
worst.
lifetime, bro.
Dan, it was the
He
worst
won in a half a
game
quarter. He
in
barely
Toronto
played in that
Argo's
game.
history. It wasn't at halftime, by the way. It was partway through the third quarter he came in.
No, I know.
And then he played the worst playoff game in Toronto Argonauts history
Yeah.
the next year. It was terrible. It was worse than when the Leafs blew a 4-1 lead against Boston. It was that bad. And you're telling, so by your theory, the Leafs should not have kept him.
No, I agree with keeping him because he's won in our lifetime. No Maple Leaf has done that.
But Dan, you're saying, then by your saying, then they should have kept McLeod Buffalo Thompson. That was his second Grey Cup. You should have kept him instead. He had more winning pedigree. He's won 2 Grey Cups.
He didn't finish.
Nick Arbuckle and Chad Kelly have the same actually. Nick Arbuckle was more winning pedigree. He played the whole damn game.
He did play the whole game. Yes.
Therefore, Nick Arbuckle should be the starting quarterback. Davis Alexander, get rid of him. Go get Tommy Stevens to be your quarterback because he's won a Grey Cup. You know what? The Leafs should trade every top player and get every fourth liner from an NHL Stanley Cup winning team from the last 10 years because they have championship pedigree. The Leafs have brought in how many players who have quote-unquote championship pedigree? It doesn't matter. Look at who did Carolina have besides of Jordan Stahl, who had championship pedigree?
For coach Rob Brendamore?
On the ice.
Oh.
And Rob Brendamore never won as a coach. Who did they have on the ice? 0. They had one player with your quote-unquote championship pedigree. Yeah, their best player statistically, Taylor Hall, never won a cup going into this year. Right. Logan Stankoven, very young player. Jackson Blake, young player. Nikolai Ehlers, who everyone said was a failure, who could have won the Conn Smythe this year. Championship pedigree doesn't mean anything. Go ahead, Dan. I'm sure you want to respond to that. You're drinking water for anticipation.
No, I mean, I think the CFL is different because when Kelly came in, they were down by 10 points. He was a rookie, and he ended up winning. Okay? He's won in our lifetime. Yes, the one game he played that was terrible. The other game we don't know because he broke his leg. Okay? But he has that championship pedigree. If you look at the team, Carolina, you're right. Carolina had one player, all the power to them. Then you look at a team like Florida, who kept constantly winning in championship pedigree, and they won.
And last year, they were one of the worst teams in the NHL. What's your point?
Because Barkov was into the whole year. It proved how good
they had Brad Marchand. They had Sam Bennett. They had Sergei Bobrovsky. They had Aaron Ekblad. They had the whole team at championship pedigree. My God, they should have won 82-0. The whole team at championship pedigree. They need to go get Barkov's dog walker because he walked the dog of an owner who has championship pedigree. Championship pedigree only takes you so far.
That pedigree only takes you so far. And it's like, it's good for you when you've been in that situation, but there's only one winner at the end of the day. You can get all of the championship pedigree you want. At the end of the day, it doesn't buy you a championship. That doesn't mean you're the coach. Having championship experience doesn't mean it's going to work with the next team. That's the issue. That's nobody can get out of their heads. It's like we've tried it before. Mike Babcock had been to 2 Stanley Cup finals, including winning it. But guess what? He won it because of how stacked his team was. He also won Olympic gold because everybody brings up that with the most stacked Canadian team, debatably of all time. Like there's no Craig Berube won a championship, but he didn't win. He didn't do anything in Toronto. It's like championship experience and being there in the moment only helps you so much because you still got to go out there and perform. The changes, the Leafs have tried too many times to do the same thing, and it's at the point where it's just getting annoying.
When Jacob talking about pedigree, the only thing I could think of was the dog food.
Oh my gosh, Dan. Thank you for sharing. But look, at the end of the day, Dan, the Leafs have tried bringing in a rookie coach, and it didn't get them past the second round. They tried bringing in a girly vet, and it didn't get them past the second round and put up their worst season in over 10 years. So they went when in doubt, middle it out, and they went down the middle with Jim Heller, a guy with experience but he's not an old head that isn't willing to change. And at the end of the day, I feel they did their due diligence. They interviewed over 25 head. They interviewed over 25.
I give them credit for that. Yeah.
But we got to get to the comment section here, and there's a CFL question.
Whoa.
Did you guys see some sociologist turned media dude floating the idea of the CFL expanding to the States again? You didn't read the article. The commissioner has already made it very, very clear that they are not expanding to the United States. And I would say this too, and then not that before anyone wants to get all the politics, I'm not going to talk about the politics themselves, but with the way Canada-US relations are, the Canadian Football League going to the States would not work right now.
Yeah.
There is no way in HE double hockey sticks, as I like to say, that's going to work with the climate today. Maybe 15 years down the road, after people forget things, then maybe. But as of right
also
now,
the money
it's not
issue.
happen.
The money issues as well.
Like right
the
now,
difference in currency as well.
Yeah, that too. And the most realistic spot for expansion right now is Laval. I saw some comments about Halifax again. Laval is closer to having a stadium.
True.
Laval could, in theory, have a new stadium by 2030 and have a temp stadium by 2029. We're already in 2026. That is not that far away.
I like Laval too because I think it's key for the next team. Hello, Spot Up 11. I think it's key for the next team to be in the East. They got 5-5 teams in each conference. And I also think it's key to put the next team as East as possible because it can't go any more west than Vancouver, right? Yeah, Laval, Quebec.
Laval, Quebec's perfect because you already have such a good football audience there.
I think it could have been Quebec City, but
I can't pronounce the team, but there's a big team in Quebec that has Quebec City as well is another one. If you want to read the article, some interest. Yeah, Halifax and Quebec City. So maybe it's Quebec City where the big arena is, and I'm just getting it mixed up. But there is a big arena coming in. You already have the Rouge Laval. I apologize if I'm butchering the French enunciation. And they have a really big crowd, standing fans, but they only play about 5 games a year. So it's not like a CFL team coming in there is really going to step on your toes. Like you look at Saskatchewan, for example, with the Rough Riders and the Huskies. The Huskies get some of the best attendance. And again, it funnels fans from league to league. It makes a lot of sense. And the team, Rouge Laval, they're already getting 15,000, 16,000 fans a game. They're getting more fans at a game than the Argos do.
Right, exactly.
And Halifax is another option. Actually, one of our most popular shorts we posted on TikTok was about that Halifax new stadium. We hit over 100 likes on that one today, so that was quite the surprise.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, I'll definitely have to check out that CTV article about the interesting info about Quebec City and Halifax. It's interesting to see where these go.
The
CFL is our true game. Got to go to a Grey Cup. Getting to a Grey Cup is it's another level.
I've been at 2 Grey Cups. Amazing experience.
They have 3 spring leagues. We have provincial Canadian game, and now that CBC lost any relevance, we need CFL showing us for our games as US has. Yeah, I mean, look,
very true.
The only thing I'll say for the States when they go on about hockey, like I know I always see the comment, well, the States have more Stanley Cup winning teams than Canada. It's like, well, obviously there's 32 teams and there's 7 Canadian teams.
Yeah.
And your country didn't win the cup. Your one team did.
Exactly.
Right. It's like even if Montreal had won the Stanley Cup, Canada wouldn't have won the Stanley Cup. The Montreal Canadiens would have won the Stanley Cup.
Eric Caulfield's American. Sorry, not Eric. Wow. Cole Caulfield's American.
But the end of the day,
I know where Eric Caulfield is
going on. All Canadian players.
That's what I'm saying. All Canadian players.
Do that RV trip to Alberta, boys. Labor Day. Oh man,
let's go.
Well, we do have a friend who converted an old bus to an RV.
Yeah, we gotta steal it.
Then Grey Cup. But I think on that bombshell, it's time we wrap up the show for the evening. Oh, one last comment here. Here's the main points. Just read the article. Was that it would help the CFL get a US. They have a US TV contract. That's an interesting that CTV thinks that they don't. They have the CBS deal. Now I do wonder, is that going to change, and is DAZN going to be the home of American CFL games? Hey, that is. And again, to CFL fans who are crying about, losing 1 game a week, hockey fans just lost Hockey Night in Canada. That is a Canadian constitution.
Yes, it is expiring. US contract's expiring. Yeah, it's a great point.
I've heard CBS is interested in extending this deal.
Right.
But also the CFL is also wanting to see what DAZN can do. Apparently DAZN would love every single game for the States.
Also want to say quickly before we go, the Blue Jays won again today. So we're 2-0 against the Red Sox. Could go up for the sweep tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. USAPA is expected to start that game. Snyder played a phenomenal game again today. Jimenez had a great game again today. Vladdy, I know the offense is not fair, but he played great defensively. And Volin finished the 9th inning in only 10 pitches. That was amazing to watch. And it was a bullpen game with 7 pitches that did not give up a single one. So get on the Jays. We're 7-1 this year on bullpen games. So
the Jays bullpen bent, but they didn't break, allowing 7 hits and 7 walks, but no earned runs. And
that's what I mean. It's pretty incredible
for the Toronto Blue Jays. But I do want to thank everyone for joining us at the Analyst Desk. Every day feels like game day. I'd like to thank Adam for stepping away from the petting zoo that he runs to keep the eternal youth.
Oh, he runs it now.
Ooh. He runs it.
I run it apparently. I've started running it in the last hour and a half we've been on.
It's in your closet with the big double doors.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, apparently, yeah.
That's where the petting zoo is. And of course, Mr. More for your money, who gets to clean up all the poop at the petting zoo. And me.
Ooh.
Jacob Moore, the self-proclaimed sports analyst. I want to thank everyone for joining us in the comment section for this great conversation about, Toronto Maple Leafs coaching decisions. Had great conversation about PWHL and CFL expansion. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a beautiful night and morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time zone you're in. And we'll see you guys on the flip side. Remember, releasing on Friday will be a CFL preview show breaking down all 4 games coming up this Friday. So make sure you stay logged.
Oh, right. Yes.
Have a great night, everyone. We'll see you later.
Dan forgot something that he's a part of.
Bye-bye.
It's the Analyst Desk. Welcome to the show. It's the Analyst Desk. Yeah, in case you didn't know, it's the Analyst Desk. Welcome to the show where every day feels like game day, bro.